My neighbor kept leaving groceries at my door. Last week I found out why. I live alone in a small apartment building. Nothing fancy, just one of those old brick buildings where you can hear your neighbors arguing through the walls and everyone knows everyone's business. I'm 29, work remotely, and generally keep to myself. About 8 months ago, I noticed something strange. A bag of groceries appeared outside my apartment door. At first, I assumed someone had delivered it to the wrong address. Inside were basic items: bread, milk, eggs, pasta. I checked with the neighbors. Nobody claimed it. Eventually I donated the food and forgot about it. Then it happened again. 2 weeks later, another bag. This time there was a note. Everyone needs a little help sometimes. No name, no apartment number, nothing. The thing was, I didn't need help. I had a stable job. I paid my bills. I wasn't struggling financially. The groceries were nice, but they were unnecessary. I asked around again. Nobody knew anything, or at least nobody admitted to knowing anything. Months passed. Every few weeks another grocery bag would appear. Always simple essentials, always anonymous, always with some variation of the same message. I became obsessed with figuring out who was leaving them. I even bought a small camera for my doorway. The next delivery finally gave me an answer. Sort of. The footage showed an elderly woman from apartment 2B. Her name was Margaret. She was probably in her late 70s. Tiny. Always wore oversized sweaters. The kind of neighbor who baked cookies for everyone during holidays. I immediately went downstairs. Margaret, are you leaving groceries at my door? She looked genuinely shocked, then embarrassed, then she sighed. Well, I suppose you've caught me. I laughed. Why? She hesitated. You looked lonely. Not poor, not hungry. Lonely. Lonely. That answer completely caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. Margaret smiled awkwardly. When you're my age, you notice things. Apparently she had noticed that I rarely had visitors. That I worked from home. That I usually ate alone. That I spent most weekends inside. To her, the grocery bags weren't really about food. They were a way of saying someone noticed me. Someone cared. I thanked her and told her she didn't need to keep doing it. She nodded. The deliveries stopped, or so I thought. A month later, I noticed something else. Every Tuesday morning, there was a fresh loaf of homemade bread outside my door. No note, just bread. I started leaving thank you notes. She started responding. Eventually we developed a weird system. Bread appeared, a note disappeared, another note appeared. For months, we communicated mostly through pieces of paper. Then one day the notes stopped. No bread, nothing. I figured she was visiting family. A week passed, still nothing. Something felt wrong. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, the building manager unlocked the door. Margaret was inside. She had fallen in her kitchen. Thankfully she was alive, but she'd been there for nearly a day before anyone found her. The ambulance arrived quickly. As they wheeled her out, she grabbed my hand. I was wondering where my Tuesday note was. I nearly cried. Margaret spent several weeks recovering. During that time, I visited often. I learned things I never knew. She'd been married for 52 years. Her husband had passed away 5 years earlier. Her son lived across the country. Her daughter had died before I ever moved into the building. Most days she was alone. Very alone. Suddenly I understood something. The grocery bags had never been for me. Not entirely. They were for her too. They were her way of reaching out. Her way of creating a connection. Her way of fighting loneliness. After she returned home, we started having dinner together once a week. Then twice a week. Eventually it became almost every evening. The other residents noticed. Soon they started joining us. A teacher from the 3rd floor. A retired firefighter from apartment 1A. A nursing student upstairs. What started as 2 lonely people sharing meals became a small community. We celebrated birthdays, game nights, holidays. For the first time since moving there, the building actually felt like home. Then last winter something happened. Margaret's health started declining. Slowly at first, then more noticeably. She became forgetful. She got tired easily. Walking became difficult. One evening she handed me an envelope. Don't open this until you need to. Naturally, I asked what that meant. She refused to explain. For months, the envelope sat in my desk drawer. I forgot about it. Then, 3 weeks ago, I got a call. Margaret had passed away peacefully in her sleep. The news hit harder than I expected. I wasn't family. We weren't related, but somehow she'd become one of the most important people in my life. The building felt empty without her. At the small memorial service, dozens of people showed up. Neighbors, former neighbors, friends, nurses. People from her church, even delivery drivers who knew her. One after another, people shared stories. The surprising part? Almost everyone had received groceries at some point. Or cookies, or handwritten notes, or surprise care packages. Margaret had been doing this for years. She seemed to have a sixth sense for lonely people. A week after the funeral, I finally opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. It read, "If you're reading this, then I've probably gone somewhere your notes can't reach." I had to stop reading for a minute. Then I continued, "People think kindness needs a reason. It doesn't. You never looked like someone who needed groceries. You looked like someone who needed to know they mattered. The funny thing is that helping you helped me too. I was lonely. I think you were too. Now promise me something. When you notice someone sitting alone, do something about it. Not because it's your responsibility. Because it's an opportunity." At the bottom she had written, "P.S. The bread recipe is attached. Yours always turned out terrible." I laughed and cried at the same time. The recipe was attached, covered in handwritten corrections. Last Tuesday, I baked the bread. It still came out terrible. But I wrapped it anyway. Then I left it outside the door of a new tenant who recently moved into the building. A young guy who keeps to himself. No note, just bread. The next morning there was a message waiting outside my apartment. It said, "Thank you. I needed this more than you know." And for the first time, I finally understood exactly what Margaret had meant.